Spectacular, spectacular, Spider-Man. Spectacular, spectacular, Spider-Man. Spectacular, spectacular, Spider-Man. Spectacular.
Well, where to start with this one, right? What can I say about Into the SpiderVerse that hasn't already been said by millions of people in millions of different ways? Well, I'm going to do my best to try, and don't worry, this review is not going to be an hour long this time, because I'm not going to go into every single little thing like I did with No Way Home. Instead, I'm just going to give you guys a general, basic overview, and talk about a few little spoilers if they bugged me enough, so... What's up, what's happening, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Animation Station, your one-stop shop for anything and everything animation, including live action every now and then, or in this case, back to animation, for our favorite wall crawler, Spider-Man. We have been through so much in this Spider-Man retrospective, and now we're at the tail end of it, because tomorrow we have a day one review of Across the Spider-Verse. So excited, more than likely will be my film of the year, but we'll wait and see. But Into the Spider-Verse did a lot of things right. It was unique and distinct from the others. It was animated. It was very hyper-stylized and did a really big number on the animation community, because you can argue without this we wouldn't have the over-hyper-stylization we have nowadays, where they're actually trying to replicate their source material, because this one did it so well. And not to mention, it is the only Spider-Man film out of all 10 of these movies, so far anyway, to win an Oscar. It beat out DreamWorks and Disney for Best Animated Film at the Oscars. Yeah, it deserves it. But there are people that still say this is the height of Spider-Man. This is the height of Spider-Man, like, I might tick off a few people by saying this. I still think No Way Home is a better movie. And I'd probably put this around the mid-high tier of the Spider-Man movies, but don't get me wrong, this is a fantastic movie. It's just as amazing as you've heard, and if you haven't seen it yet, well, what are you waiting for? Go watch it right now. I'm pretty sure it's on Netflix or Disney Plus, or it's on some kind of streaming service, or of course, you can be like me, buy the DVD for super cheap. I still have yet to do that, but that's what I'm going to do. But yeah, Into the Spider-Verse has so much great things for it, and the first thing I want to talk about here is this cast. Like, my goodness, this cast. Shameik Moore, Jake B. Johnson, Haley Steinfeld, Mahershala Ali, Brian Tyree Henry, Lily Tomlin, Luna Lauren Velez, however you say that, Zoe Kravitz, John Mulaney, Kimiko Glenn, Nicolas Cage, Kathryn Hahn, Liev Schreiber, Chris Pine, Natalie Morales. Like... And at the end, of course, Oscar Isaac. Like, that is a cast, man. And instead of them all just being there because it's a celebrity face you recognize you can put on posters, they all really blend into their characters, especially one I want to shout out in particular, well, two actually. Those being Shameik Moore as Miles Morales himself, who is extremely distinct and unique from every other Spider-Man that we've had in a very long time. Like, he's different in a multitude of different ways from Peter Parker or any of those other Spider-Men that we've seen over the years. Like, entirely new, entirely different, entirely unique, and that's why I love him. He's so unique, he's so likable, but he's also goofy, he's a little over the top, but he also has this serious mission. He made this promise to this dying Spider-Man from his universe, and now he wants to keep it by any means necessary, and then he ends up getting thrown into a multiverse adventure. And yeah, you can argue that this is the movie that also started the multiverse trend, so yeah, there's that too, even though the MCU did exist before this movie, but this is arguably the movie that made it so mainstream. And Shameik Moore does an amazing job as Miles, and not to mention, he was a YouTuber before he was ever casted for this, and he's such a likable personality and such a likable guy. And his performance in this movie, he doesn't do it as a paycheck. He does it so well. He completely blends into his character. And I wasn't saying, oh, that should make more for the entire movie. I was saying, oh, that's Miles Morales, and he's friggin' awesome. There's that. And then the other one I want to point out, and the one that surprised me the most, was Nicolas Cage as Spider-Man Noir. Now, when you first hear those words, you're sitting there like, how in the flying flip is that gonna work? Like, how's that gonna work? Well, once again, Nick blends into his role. I mean, yeah, you can obviously tell it's him and he's putting on a little bit of a 30s accent here and there, you know, to really fit his character's aesthetic and the universe that he comes from, but he does it so well, and not to mention, he's the source of a lot of great humor in this movie. Like, he's so good. And then the story's really good. The animation is just, oh wow, what do I say about this animation? It's faithful to the comics, it's extremely stylized, incredibly well done, very smooth, very unique, very distinct. It is just masterful what they did with this animation. Like, it's masterful, it's crazy. This is from the same people that made the Lego movie. And instead of doing brickimation, this time they just go full-on comic book. And it's really good at being a full comic book too. Like, you even have the little things that you have comic panels, you have people literally reading comics, especially one in particular that has that amazing fantasy number 17 cover, you know, the one I glowed about in No Way in Far From Home. The one I glowed about in Far From Home. And then you also have comic book panels, and you have text boxes, and even when there's web swinging in one scene in particular, you see Thwip pop up every time they pull out the web. Like, it's funny. Like, ready? Thwip, release. Thwip, release. I also love Miles' attachment and connection to Peter B. Parker, and not to mention, this Peter Parker is also different from everything we've seen before because he's a screw-up, he lost his wife, and he's kind of become a bigger recluse. But in this movie, as he's trying to help Miles is also helping him come out of his shell and help him realize, you know that whole shebang. And then there's Spider-Gwen, who's just become a symbol of DeviantArt. Okay, I'm sorry, that was a low blow. But she's a great character in here too. Love her design with the white and the pink contrast. And then there's also the anime version of Spider-Man. Even though it's Penny Parker, it's a girl inside a robot. Yeah, that part was a bit weird. Like, as much as I love anime, that was a bit weird. And then there's Spider-Ham, who's literally a Looney Tunes character if he got bit by a spider and got to become Spider-Man. And then you also have some pretty great villains in here. The Prowler, straight out of the Miles Morales comic books. Or Ultimate Spider-Man, excuse me. You got Prowler. You have an alternate reality version of Dr. Octopus, Liv, who's voiced again by, where was she? Catherine Hahn. Catherine Hahn did such an amazing job in this role. And then you have Scorpion, who is Spanish for some reason. Like, I haven't read that deep into the comic books, but I don't remember a Spanish Scorpion. Like, is that just me? I'm sorry, I don't know if that's just me. I don't really remember that part very well. And then the action scenes are just nuts, and it also has a great moral in the end. I'm not going to spoil it. But it's just an all-around phenomenal, fantastic movie, and if you haven't seen it yet, you need to. So, what do I say? It's mid to low high tier. It's a few little problems, to be honest with you, but it has one big problem: Kingpin. As much as I love Liev Schreiber, and he does a great job in this role, his design is awful. He's the one design in this movie that just sucks. Like, I get the big hulking guy, but he's like this tall with a tiny freaking head. Like, no. That design was so stupid. Like, I don't know if that was intentional to make us laugh, but goodness, that design is bad. Like, ugh. I can't even say it without laughing. Like, seriously, Kingpin's design is bad, and as a villain, he's very by the books. But you take that away, honestly, Prowler's the real main villain of this movie. That just ends up working for Kingpin. And Prowler and his story and the connection that he has with Miles was really great, pulled right out of the comics once again, and is emotional when it needs to be. Now, that's what's great about this movie. Even when there's not, like, crazy action going on screen, you're still entertained and still invested because it has heart, it has emotion, it has effort, it has love and passion put into it. And not to mention, correct me if I'm wrong here, this is Stanley's final cameo before he passed away. Because he passed away right before, I believe. It was either Endgame or Far From Home. I think it was Endgame. Yeah, he passed away before Endgame. So, this is another movie that's dedicated to him, just like Far From Home was. It's dedicated to him and Steve Ditko. He has a cameo in the movie. It's his last one on screen, which is sad, but it makes me smile every time I see it, especially because he plays the greedy salesman. And he's like, no returns or refunds ever. Like, it'll fit eventually. It's funny. Like, it's just funny. I could go on about this movie forever, but honestly with this one, since the sequel is coming out soon, I don't want to spoil everything, but I'll just say the ending is epic and awesome. Can we leave it at that? Yeah, I think we can leave it at that. Yes, I know it's a very short review, especially compared to all the other reviews I've done, but it's because I want you guys to watch this one before, like, I don't want to spoil anything, because I know that somehow there's still people that haven't watched this movie yet, and if you haven't, what are you doing? Go watch it right now. It won an Oscar for a reason. So, yeah. Kingpin's really my only big problem with the movie, and then the rest of it's just little minor things, like missed opportunities to put in even more Easter eggs, or, you know, they fly through certain parts of the story just a bit too fast, and the product placement. They could have left that out, but whatever. And then the soundtrack's really good too. I almost forgot that. I don't know how I almost forgot that. Sunflower is a bop, one of my favorite chill songs to listen to. And the rest of the soundtrack, despite being hip-hop, one of my least favorite genres personally, it's really good. It's that really good hip-hop where you can tell there's effort and dedication being put into it. So, yeah. Into the Spider-Verse is just as great as you've heard, if not even greater. And it's so great that I literally don't want to go into full-on spoiler territory like I did with No Way Home. And I don't want to break it all down like I did in No Way Home, because I want you guys to see this movie. Just go watch it right now. It's not even 2 hours long. It's worth your time. Okay, I'll talk about one thing. I'll talk about the post-credit scene. Best post-credit scene ever and the best sequel teasing ever, where we have Oscar Isaac as Spider-Man 2099, Miguel O'Hara, one of my favorite alternative versions of Spider-Man. And they do the infamous 60s pointing meme. And it's even called Earth 67 because that original series came out in 67. Nice little Easter egg, but, like, it ends with them just doing the pointing meme at each other. Like, how rude to point. You're the one being rude. Seriously, that's, like, among the top 5 greatest post-credit scenes ever, because it's 2099, and it's a big, serious Spider-Man doing something you don't think he would ever do. Like, it's so funny, it's so off the wall, but in terms of this movie, it works. But that's the only spoiler I'm going to get. The rest of the spoilers I'm keeping out, because I want you guys to go see this movie. Seriously, go watch this movie if you haven't already. Final verdict for Into the Spider-Verse is a high 8 out of 10, and it would be higher if Kingpin was designed better, if he wasn't such a by-the-books basic villain, and if the pacing slowed down just a little bit every now and then. Because it does move a bit too fast. And again, the blatant product placement, I could have absolutely done without that, but it's a Sony movie, I guess I gotta expect that at this point. But yeah, outside of that, great movie, absolutely check it out if you haven't already, and I'll see you guys later today as we kick off SpongeBob Month 4, and then after that I'll see you tomorrow for a Day 1 review of Across the Spider-Verse.